A federal judge has rejected a Justice Department request to change or essentially get rid of something known as the Flores settlement, which restricts immigrant child detention to 20 days. Maximum of 20 days. The Trump administration is not in favor of that because they would like to detain children with their parents in detention centers for extended periods of time, indefinitely. So in the ruling in federal court, California Judge Dolly G turned down a US Justice Department motion to modify a 1997 settlement, again, it's known as the Flores settlement, to allow the government to keep underage migrants in detention alongside their parents. In her ruling, she wrote the following: there is no state licensing readily available for facilities that house both adults and children. So this hasn't been done before. So these facilities don't exist. The facilities that are being proposed are not licensed to do this. And also she refuses to allow for children to be detained for longer than 20 days. She also writes that the administration's argument that parents won't show up to court if they're released does not support a blanket non-release policy. So why is that? She refuted the administration's arguments, noting that, for example, 86% of family detainees who have been released attended all of their court hearings. Now, some of them don't. That is a legitimate concern. 86% is a pretty high percentage, but for those who don't appear in court, that is a problem. I will acknowledge that. But you can come up with better ways of monitoring these individuals, for instance, using an ankle bracelet, rather than using taxpayer money to detain them indefinitely.
An ankle bracelet's a little bit cheaper than housing them for months at a time. And of course, the conservatives are always over the top. They're like, oh, why would they ever show up? Nobody's gonna show up. No, it turns out 86% show up for every court hearing. And by the way, I don't know the number for ones that show up to just some of the court hearings. We all wish it was 100%, but that's actually a pretty great number. And does it really justify the cost and the separation of families or keeping the children in detention centers for so long for that extra 14%?
So I have, it's more of a hypothesis, because it's just, I feel like it's just human nature. I think the reason why the majority of people do show up to their court date is because they are seeking asylum. And so they want to be in the country legally. They want to make their case. They want to prove their case. They want to be in the country and have legal status to be here. And so this idea that, they're trying to trick you. They're just trying to come in, pretend like they're seeking asylum, and then they're going to run away. That's not really how it works or how people think. They want to be here legally. They want to go through the legal route.
So the Trump administration sees this case where they're clearly rule against them. They say, we will not get rid of the Flores settlement like you want, so that you can keep the kids with their parents locked up for a long, long time. So the Justice Department comes out and goes, so what I'm hearing is that we can lock them up for a long time or separate them from their family. No, the judge said the exact opposite. You can't do either one of those things.
So I think that the statement from the Justice Department is foreshadowing, because I believe that what the Trump administration will do now, and again, this is my speculation, but I do have reason to believe this. I think what the Trump administration is now gonna do is go back to separating children. And then they're gonna blame this federal judge and her ruling. They're gonna say, well, it was a judge's ruling, a federal judge's ruling, that we have to separate the children and put them in shelters while their parents are in detention.
In fact, the judge also said what you're alluding to, and that's why it's not much speculation. It's called it a cynical attempt to shift responsibility for immigration policy to the judiciary.
Yeah.
So she did not rule that you have to separate the kids. She just didn't. That's just a lie. So what the Trump administration isn't telling you is a third option. Now, it's an option they don't like and a lot of right wing doesn't like, but there is a third option. It's the one we've always been doing, which is, look, you can't keep kids for longer than 20 days in a detention center because they're kids, and it's barbaric to separate the families. So you release them, either hopefully with an ankle bracelet and good technology, et cetera, and they come back to court, and 86% of them do. And or, by the way, there's one other possibility. is that you hire a lot of judges, not the insane number that Trump keeps throwing out there about 5,000 judges.
The made-up number that he,
yeah. But yes, a couple hundred judges, yes, it costs us more money, but you process all of those families in under 20 days. You can do that, it would cost more money, right? So I would then turn it back to the Trump administration and go, which one do you want to do? You want to spend a little bit more money and make sure that everybody's processed in an orderly way so you're not detaining kids for over 20 days? Or do you want to say they're free to go with an ankle bracelet, but they're going to come back and again, they get removed from the country once the proceedings are over if it turns out that they shouldn't get asylum. And so if they tell you that they don't have other choices, not remotely true.
Of course it's not. And just to add a little more to the story, a federal court ruled that Donald Trump had to reunite migrant children under the age of 5 by a certain date, a deadline, and Trump did not reunite those children with their parents by the deadline. They asked for an extension. They have received the extension. But we are now learning that the federal government did not keep track of whose children belong to whom. You see what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
they didn't keep record of it. So part of the reason why they're not able to meet the deadline is because they didn't care to track the children to the parents properly.
There's at least 102 kids under the age of 5 who now don't know where their parents are and their parents don't know where their kids are. So they went into court today and said to the judge, sorry, we don't have them yet. And so the judge had to extend the deadline because they just don't know which parents go with which kids. And what did I tell you would be the defining trait of Trump's presidency? Sheer incompetence. It's not an accident that he went bankrupt 6 times. Has no ability to manage anything and doesn't care to. He thinks, what do I care about those kids? Oh, they're under the age of 5. Some of them are babies.
Right.
And so they're not going to be able to find their parents. Whatever, in his mind, they're animals. And they shouldn't be here in the first place. So they had it coming. And what does the right wing, including members of his administration, say? So well, it's the parents' fault. They shouldn't have come, so now they don't have their babies. That'll serve them. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.